Okay, good afternoon, all of you, once again. I hope all of you are doing great. So, in the last lecture, we talked about amendments in peer review, that is Unit 1 of chapter number 10. Now, in this lecture, we'll discuss all the relevant amendments for Unit 2, that is your quality review. So, as of now, you would have understood the basic difference between peer review and quality review, which we discussed in the last lecture. Now, in this part, we'll be discussing all the relevant amendments for quality review. Yes, there are some major amendments in the overall chapter for quality review for you guys. So let's get started, but before we start with this, let me give you an overview once again that what are the important terms in quality review, so that when we come across those terms while discussing relevant concepts, you should be able to understand. So in case of quality review, as I explained you earlier as well, there is something called as quality review board. There is something called as quality review board. Now, talking about quality review, there is something called as quality review board, and this comes directly under the control of central government, if you ask me. Now here again, we have the review of audit firms, but here they are called as audit firms under review. AFUR is a short form used for those practice units which are under review when it comes to quality review situation. So here the audit firms are called as AFUR, audit firm under review, and the reviewer is called as technical reviewer. So in peer review we had peer reviewer, here the reviewer is called as technical reviewer. So remember, there we had peer review board, here we have quality review board. There we had peer reviewer, here we have technical reviewer. There we use the word practice unit, here we are going to use the word audit firm under review. Now why are they using the word audit firm specifically, if you ask me? Because quality review actually takes care of only statutory audit reviews. I had mentioned this earlier in the last lecture also, that peer review can be done for practice units which are performing statutory audit, internal audit, tax audit, concurrent audit, but on the other hand, quality review is as of now focusing only and only on the statutory audit review. So the focus is only on the statutory audits which are performed by a practice unit. So this was an overview to you what is a quality review. Now let me tell you once again one thing, that peer review board was under the purview of ICAI. Quality review board comes directly under the control of central government, and in case of majority situation, if you know NFRA, so NFRA has rule 3 where they have some prescribed entities. That means we're talking about listed companies in India, insurance companies, banking companies, or other entities which have a public interest directly related. So those entities, the power comes under NFRA. So only when NFRA is requesting quality review board to conduct a quality review, only then quality review board can conduct or initiate a quality review for those rule 3 entities which was covered under NFRA, if you remember. Just for your reference once again, in your module 2, we have company audit chapter where there is section 132 which clearly talks about, can you see? As per NFRA rules, NFRA shall have the power to monitor, oversee, undertake, and can you see, undertake investigation. Now this includes your listed companies, it includes your unlisted public companies beyond a certain threshold, insurance companies, banking companies. Now these entities, the direct power comes under NFRA. They may ask the quality review board to initiate a quality review in case of audit of those companies. I hope you are getting my point. We'll discuss in detail. This was an overview, what is quality review and how it is different from peer review. Is this clear, guys? I think we'll get started now. Okay, so let's go to the amendments part of quality review. Now talking about the starting once again, remember in peer review I told you the focus of peer reviewer is whether the practice unit has dedicated quality control procedures in place or not. Here in case of quality review, the focus is definitely on whether they have a quality control policies and procedures in place. At the same time, they're also going to see that as a audit firm, when you have performed a statutory audit for a company, so what exactly you did in the statutory audit? Did you perform that statutory audit properly or not? Means, let's say for example, let's say you performed statutory audit of a listed company XYZ and there are material misstatements which you had not reported. Can I say that is explicitly actually what a quality reviewer is going to look at. So they are actually going to, investigate on how you have done the statutory audit. This is more like an investigating power, if you ask me. They're going to act as a protector, where they're going to find out, have you done any non-compliances, have you not performed your audit properly. So again, the technical, professional and ethical standards which we discussed under peer review, majority of the concepts will remain same here as well, but the focus is little bit more on the statutory audit. But yes, along with statutory audit, definitely as a AFUR, that is audit firm under review, do you have proper policies, that is quality control policies in place or not to perform these statutory audits. So obviously the control testing as well as here the substantive testing will come, where you will check how the statutory audit was actually done. I hope you're getting my point. Quality review is focusing specifically on the statutory audit. See carefully. Now, can you see example of important areas as per quality review report? So, on a year-on-year basis, quality review board actually, presents a report on what all sectors they've covered, how many quality reviews were actually covered, and what was the outcome of that quality review. I'm sure I have discussed this in detail in the regular lecture. I'm not going to touch that once again, but just for your information, on the basis of those reports, new recommendations are given to all the practice units who are performing statutory audits. So they have just, mentioned some important areas which needs to be kept in mind as a practice unit, because these will be part of your quality review here onwards. Now, what are the important focuses they have? And they are just focusing on the SQC front point of view. So please understand one thing. If you ask me, quality reviewer is actually playing twofold, focus. Number one, focus on how the statutory audit was actually conducted. So they are focusing on the statutory audit procedure, what you have played, have you done the audit properly or not, are there misstatements which you are unable to identify. So the focus is on the statutory audit. At the same time, do you have appropriate quality control policies and procedures as AFUR? So as a audit firm under review, do you have a proper quality control policies? That means on an annual basis, do you obtain independence confirmation from all your team members? And let's say maybe how do you ensure that proper trainings are given to all your relevant team members, where they are at par with the knowledge which is required to perform those audits. So you remember your SQC 1 or SA 220 quality control, same aspects will come here also. So this plus this, both are taken care. So the first concept what we are discussing is focusing only on this. So only from SQC point of view, what recommendations or important areas quality control board or quality review board, you can say, has given to you, that is what we are discussing right now. This can be a separate question altogether. Please remember. Come here. See. Number one, whether the audit firm has established and implemented proper quality control policies and procedures. So this is coming from SA 220 or SQC if you ask me. So this should be there, number one. Number two, whether engagement quality control reviewer at an appropriate time for the planning. So you remember your quality control reviewer, you have respective, engagement quality control reviewer, were they present during your planning stage, during your execution stage, before your finalization of report? Under SA 220 we talked about it, same thing. Next, whether the audit firms assigns a person responsible. If you remember, responsibility of engagement partner, he has to ensure whether all the engagement team members are complying with independence and ethical requirements, whether right team members are selected for right engagement, whether you have communicated your independence and ethical requirements to the audit committee of the company. So finding that right person, is that done or not in the organization? Next, whether the audit firm obtains at least annually, so it can be done even more frequently, but at least on an annual basis, you need to obtain a independence confirmation letter that you are complying with all these policies and procedures. We're talking about independence confirmation from everyone who is working in the audit firm. Next, when the audit firm performs proper independence confirmation procedure as per their internal rules before acceptance and continuous analysis. You remember A&C analysis, we talked about this under SA 220. That means before signing the engagement terms, ideally you should perform A&C analysis, understand whether your engagement team members are independent or not for specific engagement. Okay, so this is for specific engagement, and in general also on an annual basis you should have. Majority audit firms in India, I'm talking about big size firms, they all have this procedure either on a quarterly basis or in a on a half yearly basis. This is for in general. For specifically every engagement, it is performed, and you have separate documentation regarding the same. Also, how do you ensure as an audit firm that there are proper training programs? So I remember in 2011, when I was almost about to finish my internship, on that time we in the firm, in my audit firm where I was working, they started the training programs for introduction to what is going to be Ind AS, how Ind AS is going to be different from your existing accounting standards. So these kind of training programs needs to be there, where your engagement team members are actually at par in terms of quality of knowledge they need to have while performing these engagements. So these are the important areas which you need to focus. I would request all of you to spend 1 minute, read all of them in detail. This is an amendment and this can be a separate 4-mark question. Remember, they're not focusing on audit at all here. This is the second part, audit part. This was just the first part on the quality control point of view. Read this quickly. Can you continue? Okay, so the scope and objective, if you ask me, majority points are same, but there are 1 or 2 additional points. So if you ask me, scope and objective of quality review, mark this as important. This can be a separate question. Now, first thing, if you read carefully, whether the audit firm has complied with the applicable technical standards which are applicable in India. You remember your ethical, professional and technical standards. Again, the definition will come here. What is covered in the technical standard? So majority points are almost similar to what we had in case of definition for the peer review. Here 2-3 additional things are added. Let's say preface is added for your accounting standards and preface for your quality control or auditing standards. Otherwise majority things are almost same. So talking about number 1, whether you have ensured as a quality reviewer that the audit firm which you are actually reviewing, have they complied with all applicable technical standards. Number 2, have they complied with all applicable laws and regulations which may be made applicable from time to time. So A and B is pretty straightforward. Come to point number C, important. Whether audit firm under review has implemented a system of quality control. Now this was not included earlier, but ideally this was inherently assumed that yes, you are going to check the quality controls as well as how the statutory audit was done. So if you ask me, point number C and D are very, very important. See, point number C is talking about the controls in place, that as an audit firm, how do you ensure? Let me give you an example. So when a new statutory audit comes to me as a prospective engagement partner, how do we perform acceptance or continuance analysis? How do we decide who all will be relevant team members for this audit engagement? How I will ensure that whether they will be independent and ethical or not? So these things is coming here under point number C. Then point number D, point number D carefully. This is about the execution. Examining whether there is no material misstatement of assets and liabilities as on reporting date in respect to the selected entity. Are they focusing on the execution of audit part? Now this is something which we did not consider in peer review. Peer review was all about point number C, if you ask me. But quality review is about point number C and mostly focusing on point number D also. That is, did you perform this specific statutory audit? I told you this is going to be picking up specific statutory audit of an audit firm. They are not going to review all the services or all the engagements what you have done. They don't cover your internal audit, concurrent audit. I'll tell you how they specifically mentioned it. So this is more of focusing on the statutory audit. I hope you understand this. Then can you see? The major focus is on reviewing whether they are complying with all technical standards, whether you're complying with all applicable laws and regulations. Again, the same points written in a paragraph form. Majority of points are almost same. You can just read them when you get time. So remember, point number C and D does the justice. If you remember these 2 points, trust me, you will understand the major scope and objective of a quality reviewer. Great. Now let's go to the definition of technical standard for a quality reviewer. Now When you say that the audit firm, or let's say the audit firm under review, they should have complied with all technical standards. What all is covered in the technical standard? Your preface to accounting standards, preface to auditing standards and quality control standards, then your actual accounting standards under 133, your Ind AS under 133 if you ask me, then the framework for preparation and presentation of financial statements. Then can you see all applicable your engagement standards, that is SQC, SAs. Next, statements, guidance notes, all other notifications, directions. So you will find majority of these things were covered directly, indirectly under the technical, professional and ethical standards of a peer review also. So no major differences if you ask me, but the only thing is they've included the preface here. Next, the quality review board. Now there are no major changes as such, but for your reference once again, they need to comprise one chairperson and 10 other members. So in total 11 members. And remember, the central government should have the power to nominate the chairperson and 5 members. So can you say out of 11, 6 people will be nominated by central government, and obviously these should be the people who have great expertise in the field of law, economic, business, finance and accountancy. So as I told you, the quality review board technically comes under the control of central government. And how it works is, NAFRA, your rule 3 entities, they find out the important audit entities, then accordingly they ask QRB to conduct a quality review. So what are your functions of quality review board? To evaluate whether the audit was conducted properly or not, were they complying with all applicable standards. Accordingly they recommend the review points. They maybe can initiate disciplinary action against the practice units if they have not conducted the statutory audit properly. So this will be the functions of quality review board. No major changes here once again. Now these two paragraphs actually say, it's simple. Quality review board on their own cannot initiate quality review. I repeat, quality review board on their own cannot initiate quality review unless NFRA recommends them or asks them to do a quality review for all those entities covered under Rule 3. I had showed you this. You remember? I had showed you that under section 132, along with that they've given some powers of NAFRA that is given to you through NAFRA rules of 2018. In that they've mentioned these different categories of companies. I'm talking about your listed companies, banking companies, insurance companies. So for these entities, so basically let's say the statutory audit of these companies conducted by your audit firm. If you want to initiate quality review for those firms for these statutory audits, the recommendation or request has to come from NAFRA. So NFRA will request quality review board, and then only quality review board can take action. Other than them, all other entities, can quality review board identify on their own? Yes. So I'll tell you what they do. They have multiple criterias. They have criterias on the basis of risk in a particular industry, the amount involved or the volume involved in a specific industry. I'll talk about those criterias in a while, don't worry about it. But yes, on their own, they even make quality review groups, QRGs. Those groups are focusing on specific industries to identify if there are any problems going on, let's say in a cement industry, steel industry. So they identify the important companies in those industries, and then they identify the audit firms who have done the statutory audit of those companies, and then accordingly the quality review takes place. So here they're specifying wherever NFRA has power, NFRA will only go to QRB, and then only QRB can start the quality review. So when you get time, you can read this. They both mean the same thing. So other than Rule 3 entities, can quality review board initiate on their own? Yes. Next, powers of quality review board, almost same in nature. Coverage of services for quality review, very important. What all services are covered under quality review? See carefully. This procedure would not extend to review of internal audit, tax audit, GST audit and all other special purpose audits which are conducted for a company. Remember, these are not covered in quality review. So they are focusing only and only on the statutory audit. See carefully. The quality review would involve assessment of work of statutory auditors while carrying out the statutory audit. See, number one, whether they have the proper quality controls in place to perform a statutory audit, and number two, the quality control framework should be as per the SQC or not, and most importantly whether the statutory audit was done properly or not. So these all other services are not covered in case of quality review. I've highlighted this point multiple times, and I'm sure by now you have clear-cut understanding of how quality review is actually different from a peer review. In simple terms, central government wants a special power either through QRB or through NFRA. that all important companies in India, the statutory audit of those companies, which is done by audit firms, we should have a control over those audit firms. So we can select any one of them at any point of time depending upon the criterias and perform a quality review. And if they're not doing the audit properly, we can penalize them. We can start a disciplinary action under Chartered Accounts Act 1949 also. I'll talk about what actions they can take. Is this clear? I would request all of you to spend 5 minutes once again and read as of now whatever we have discussed. I'm sure this should be crystal clear to all of you. See, I'm just focusing on the important parts, the amendment parts, because majority of the procedure part is very, very same and simple. I'm sure you would have covered that in the regular lectures by now. Okay, let's go next. Selection of audit firms. Although there are no major amendments here, but I still believe this is an important area where a good question can be asked. So I'll give you an overview. No major amendments here, but important from exam point of view. See guys, this quality review was not part of final syllabus till 2 years back. From May 19 onwards, this quality review was included in the final syllabus. Earlier, we just had peer review. So ample questions have been asked on peer review. On quality review, very, very rarely they've asked questions. That is why I'm telling you, focus more on quality review. Maybe in next 1 or 2 attempts, the question can be on peer review more because there are major changes there. After that, I'm expecting more questions on quality review in the going scenario, because see, remember, maximum weightage of these chapters is 4 to 5 marks. Don't forget, maybe 1 mark or 2 mark MCQ, and then there can be a 4 mark question. It cannot go beyond that at all. I'm sure you are aware of that. So please remember, when I'm highlighting these important points, remember they're important. Okay, talking about selection of audit firm. So how do you select an audit firm? So they have given you 3 criteria. Number 1, criteria based on entities you have audited. So basically, what kind of statutory audits you have. So sorry, what kind of companies you have covered under statutory audit. So focusing only on statutory audit, but what different kind of companies you have done as a practice unit, that can be one of the criteria. See, number 1, it can be on the basis of risk-based selection. That means, let's say there is a higher risk in case of NBFC. So if you're doing more audit of NBFCs, there is a higher chance of getting selected. Next, on account of which sector you are part of. So let's say if we as a regulator see more problem in insurance and banking, so regulator like RBI and IRDAI may ask NFRA or QRB directly to initiate quality review for those audit firms. Next, what is the likelihood of fraud in those category of companies? If there are any serious accounting irregularities which have been highlighted by the media people or regulators, let's say in case of IL&FS, or let's say talking about NBFCs, banking companies, insurance companies. So majority sectors where you believe either there are serious irregularities or rumors of irregularities are there, or there are risks which are becoming higher in case of a sector, then obviously they can all come under the purview of quality review. So that can be one way to select it. Next, criteria based on audit firms. Now this is simple, purely on the basis of how much volume of work you handle. So let's say, for example, if I say one audit firm, let's say, is taking care of your all big private banks like HDFC, ICICI. So it was like this. Once upon a time, EY Bombay office had majority of these companies under their portfolio for statutory audit. So obviously, extremely higher chance of getting them selected for a quality review. The third one is the most important one. Quality review cycle. Now remember, here they have divided on the basis of how many partners you have. So see, the following quality review cycle, and again this is important from MCQ point of view. So once in 3 years for those audit firms having 20 or more partners. So 20 or more once in 3 years. Once in 4 years having 10 or more but less than 20. So we're talking about 10 to 19 here. 20 and more is coming under first category, and once in 5 years who have less than 10 partners. So we're talking about 2 to 9 partners ideally in this case. Remember one important thing, ideally in case of quality review, up to 3 audit engagements can be selected by the quality review board. And normally, if let's say earlier when the quality review was conducted, there was no adverse comment in the final report, then ideally if let's say a firm has 10 partners, then when they are selecting 3 engagements, they cannot select all 3 engagements coming under one partner. They should be selecting, one engagement from one partner. So, out of all 10 partners, any 3 partners can be selected, and any individual one engagement can be selected if there was no any adverse, comments or observation in the previous report. See, up to 3 engagements may be selected and during a particular cycle. However, in absence of any adverse finding in the past review, not more than one audit engagement of the same partner should be selected. But if there were adverse comments or reviews in the past reports, then they may select more than one engagement for one partner. So let's say, for example, guys, there's an audit firm XYZ. They have 10 partners. If there were no previous negative track records for quality review in case of this firm, then let's say partner 2, 4 and 6, one engagement from here, one from here and one from here. So ideally 3 maximum statutory engagements can be selected for quality review. I hope this is clear to you guys. Remember, quality review cycle is an important one from MCQ point of view. Next, the quality review process. So here they have mentioned more about the quality review group also, which I told you. It can be specific to a sector, it can be general. I will share that report once again with you on Telegram channel, but I'm sure I had discussed about this in detail in the regular lecture. No major amendments here. So your empanelment of technical reviewer, you can just go through again. Here the focus is more on the minimum 15 years of post qualification experience. If you remember, there the experience was 10 or 7. Here it is minimum 15 years of post qualification experience, and you should be currently in practice, obviously, and you should have done central statutory audit of a private bank, public bank or a private limited where your overall turnover is exceeding 50 crores for last 3 years. So 3 statutory audit assignments should have been done by them in last overall 10 financial years. Only then you can be a part of quality review board as a technical reviewer. So they're talking about technical reviewer. This is the eligibility criteria for a technical reviewer. Again, it's simple. I'm sure there are no major changes here. Again, these are very procedural in nature. You can just go through. It's pretty simple. Overall stages involved. So the quality review board, on the request of NFRA or on the request of other regulator, may select an audit firm. They will intimate the audit firm. The audit firm is expected to respond to them. Then they select a technical reviewer, send an engagement to technical reviewer. Technical reviewer, after accepting that, sends a questionnaire to the audit firm, ask for all different types of audits they have conducted. Then they are going to on an off-site basis select some audit engagements, maximum 3 you all are aware of. Then the technical review start, on-site visit will start, the preliminary report will come, the findings will be requested from the AFUR, and then the final report will be submitted to the board. Then what actions can be taken, we'll discuss. That is more important. So the process is very, very simple. Okay. Now, one small change: composition of review team. So the technical reviewer also needs some people along with him to perform a technical review. So maximum 5 assistants can be engaged, and remember, no firm of chartered accountant can be included. So it is individual chartered accountants who can be included as assistants along with a technical reviewer. Now, independence of assistants, I'm sure you are aware of that. That person should be a chartered accountant, should not be a disqualified person, should sign a confidentiality statement. Obviously, remember one thing, that even technical reviews assistant should not be associated with the audit firm under review for at least 3 financial years. There should not be any relationship with the audit firm under review, otherwise there will be independence conflict. Obviously, no disciplinary action should be pending against them. He should not be a member of quality review board or ICAI Central Council member, because if you are the member, then ideally you cannot be a assistant to the technical reviewer. Rather, in this case, remember, technical reviewer should also not be a member of quality review board, should also not be a member of ICAI council. So even the assistant should not be a member of quality review board and the council member, obviously. But to be an assistant, you should not be a technical reviewer also. Obviously, if you are a technical reviewer, you cannot act as an assistant to a technical reviewer. See, he should not himself be empaneled as a technical reviewer under quality review board. It's very logical. So it's simple. Technical reviewer cannot be a member of quality review board or should not be a member of council, regional council, blah blah blah. So I'm talking about assistant to technical reviewer. He cannot be a technical reviewer or he cannot be a part of this also. Very logical cycle. I hope you understand this. Then guidelines for technical reviewer is what points you should keep in mind. General in nature, you can read them. Nothing specific from exam point of view. I believe. Stage wise approach, the process which I explained you, the same process is written in more detail here. You can go through that. The reporting and other procedure, that is the preliminary report, then the final report, the process out there. No major amendments. Once again, you can read them. Can you see consideration of reports of the quality review groups? I told you there can be quality review groups who can be focusing on some general sectors or specific sectors. They give their recommendation to the quality review board where more discussions will happen, and then eventually it may go to the practicing units also. So it is generic in nature. You can read them. This is important. What actions can be recommended by quality review board? So let's say once the quality review is over, what actions can possibly taken by the quality review board? Can they start disciplinary action against the audit firm under review through Chartered Accounts Act 1949? Yes. Can you see? They may make a recommendation to the council to refer this case to the director of discipline and initiate the professional misconduct or other misconduct procedure under Chartered Accounts Act 1949. Can they give some advice or guidance regarding improvement in quality of service? Yes. Obviously, this needs to be communicated to ICAI also and obviously to the audit firm. Can they also inform about non-compliances to respective regulatory bodies? 100%. So let's say, for example, there were non-compliances with respect to banks, with respect to insurance companies. So relevant regulatory bodies will also come into picture. Can they share their findings with the AFUR and intimate them? Obviously, they need to intimate them so that AFUR can also respond to them properly. And remember one thing: once let's say an action is taken, and let's say the recommendation was given by the quality review board to a audit firm. Ideally, audit firm is supposed to understand those recommendations, understand those advices, and maybe implement better procedures in future. And there can be a follow-up procedure. Can there be a follow-up procedure for review findings? Ideally, quality review board may send a third person once again to ensure whether the overall advice or recommendation given by the quality review board have been put in place by the audit firm or not. So this follow-up can be requested. Again, procedural part is given to you. Changes to the reporting format and questionnaire. So from time to time, quality review board keeps on making changes in the questionnaire, what should be given by the technical reviewer to the AFUR, and the final report which they submit to the AFUR and the board, what components, what aspects to be focused. If you see, very generic one, quality control related questions, and focus will come in the reporting part. Ethical requirement and independence requirements. If you see, the all are majority of them coming from your essays, your 220, 230, 500, 580 reporting series, materiality. So majority of your important standards are covered here, nothing else, because they are focusing only on the statutory audits. So guys, this was the overview of all the amendments in case of a quality review. From exam point of view, ask me what actions can be taken is very important. What actions can be taken is very, very important according to me. Number two, there can be a good question on independence of assistant for a technical reviewer. That can be a good question. Then there can be a question on empanelment of technical reviewer. You should go through that once again. Then yes, how do you really select a particular entity for quality review? The three criteria you should be aware of, mostly focusing on the quality review cycle. That is more important from MCQ point of view. And then there can be a general question on the overall quality review process. What normally is the overall process? No major amendments there. So maybe in the next two attempts, the focus will be on the amendment based questions, and then eventually generally procedure based questions can be asked. So the main objective in these lectures is just to give you a brief overview of the chapter, and along with that focus mostly on the amendment part. I hope the discussion was crystal clear to all you guys, and this will be helpful for your exams. Thank you guys. Stay safe. Have a good day. Bye bye.